Welcome everybody to the PlaymakersFC YouTube channel. First video, Nash is here.
Bonjour.
You'd have seen him on the previous podcast, but now we're venturing to this little game, I guess. And to kick things off, big talking point this week, Wayne Rooney.
Legend.
I've got a feeling a lot of people these days don't appreciate how good he is. Or how good he was, should I say. Do you agree?
Well, weirdly, I'd say is, because a lot of people would say that obviously moving to the MLS is a step down from any Premier League, for any Premier League footballer, but obviously he's going to look a lot better there than he did here, mostly for Everton in his United days. Even when he wasn't at his top goal scoring form, he was still a key footballer and probably one of the best footballers I've ever seen. Over a period of years, he did wane. Funny, he waned towards the end of his career, I felt, at Manchester United, because he was played out of position and he lost that kind of, I wouldn't say he lost the hunger, but he kind of lost I think he lost a lot of his aggression personally. That catered to the downfall. I think since Ferguson left, that was the point where he went downhill for me. Was Alex Ferguson going?
Do you reckon it was the football changed massively, didn't it? I guess in between like 2012, 2015. Like when the tiki-taka stuff came in, do you reckon he wasn't suited to that at all, was he? Because he was a street footballer.
Yeah, of course. Wayne, you wouldn't fully associate Wayne Rooney with the most beautiful football ever. He was an extremely good goal scorer in his time, albeit it is strange because you know how talented a footballer he was. No one can deny that, can they? But you think that some seasons he was actually quite poor in front of goal, even when he was playing up front. When he was at his powers. But yeah, you wouldn't really associate him with beautiful link-up play. But then you look at the 2009 Champions League winning season, like him, Tevez, Ronaldo. Some of the football they were playing going forward when they played as a three was frighteningly good, and not exactly tiki-taka, but it was. I hate the fact that Klopp says it, but it was heavy metal football. It was pass and run and pass and attack and shoot and just constant for 90 minutes. When they turn up, it was some of the best football I've ever seen. It was fantastic.
I think he's definitely underrated by people these days, because you think the modern football fan are probably 6-7 years younger than us, and he probably dropped off a cliff about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Quite early, kind of 28, 29, he went from being an absolute world beater to struggling.
It was nearly in a season, and I think when Van Gaal came in, that was kind of not the catalyst for it, but in centre mid we were extremely struggling. We'd lost some huge names in there, not just when Van Gaal came in, but our centre mid went from being one of our strongest points in the late 2000s to in the early to mid 2010s as it is now. Centre mid's probably our weakest position at Manchester United, as I'm sure a lot of people would agree. And Van Gaal filled a hole with Rooney because he knew he could do a really good job there, but it was taking him away from having that goal scoring opportunity up front. Under Van Gaal, I think he probably played collectively 15-16 games as an actual striker. And I mean games that you'd really remember, as in Premier League games, Champions League games, not like I'm sure when he did play in a lot of like League Cup games, he was actually playing as a forward, and if he was then rested on the weekend or vice versa, but it's not what really sticks in your mind. And when he was there, he wasn't quite the same. He always had he was a very willing runner. He didn't have huge amounts of pace, but he was just so aggressive in everything that he did when he was in his peak at the late 2000s. From 2007 to 10 probably is when you'd probably say was his peak. Probably stretch it a bit further, but taking him out of that forward role where he wasn't performing hugely. If you think of bringing in Van Persie when he took over the goal-scoring mantle, and obviously drove us to the title pretty much single-handedly. I think even in that season, that was his last real good season for us, I would say. And in front of goal, I think he did pretty well. I think he got 30+ goals in all competitions, which I think he only achieved 2 times before for United, which shows how long he played for us, because he obviously is our record goal scorer.
You say he had struggled in front of goal. He's 253 goals for United, 53 for England, all-time top scorer for both of those clubs. It sounds absurd to say that he's struggling in front of goal at any point in his career, doesn't it?
It is, but then you look at some of the seasons. I mean, I've got some quick stats here. I mean, if you look before 2012-13 season, when Van Gaal came in, and he was dropped a lot deeper than what he was used to. Not necessarily used to, because he used to come and get involved with playing when he could, but really you'd look for Wayne Rooney to be a focal point of attack. So 2011-12, he got 34 goals in all competitions, which is incredible. The season before that, he had 16, 34 the season before that, and then 2018-23, that was obviously when he was a lot younger, going back to 2006. Then obviously after that, you've got 16, 19, 14, 15, and then 8, all with a good, near enough 40-odd appearances in each season, which, even for someone who's getting a little bit older, but you would say a lot of strikers probably hit their prime 28 to 30, and then maybe those early 30s are sometimes the best goal scoring years for strikers. Can you imagine if he had that then? He probably had his peak was probably when he was about 26 to 28. That was his strongest point in terms of goal scoring. And obviously the records are incredible. I'd say the most impressive one for me was England, because you think of Manchester United when Wayne Rooney was there and got to his powers as it would be, and he really developed into the player that everyone thought he would be. He was playing in extremely good Manchester United teams, really good attacking sides.
Title winning sides, wasn't it?
Title winning sides, winning cups. We won the Champions League. Every year we're challenging, and you're playing with extremely talented footballers all around him pretty much, and a great manager. Then you would... Yeah, I think Rooney's a legend, obviously, but you think if someone had played that many games and you know how talented he is, I'm not saying it's not enough goals for United, obviously not.
Yeah.
But
it's more than anyone else.
Of course it is. But those were our best years probably. And you think if we had someone of his ability throughout those years consistently, should they have maybe scored a bit more? Could he have? I don't know. Probably.
But is that when you look at your Ronaldo and Messi, the goals they're getting, is that skewing everyone's opinion of how good Rooney was?
Oh, of course. I'm not expecting a guy to score 500 plus goals in 500 games. That's not. I mean, they're out of this world. We know they are. There's no real comparison in any other two footballers.
He's probably unlucky because he's got Golden Boy 2004. He was in the FIFA Pro World 11 just once in 2011. PFA Team of the Year 3 times: 05, 06, 09, 10, and 11, 12. And he was never in the top 3 for the Ballon d'Or ever.
He was on the shortlist a good amount, wasn't he? But yeah.
Gerrard and Lampard, or Lampard came second, Gerrard came third in 2005.
Yeah.
And after that, Rooney probably peaked above them too in terms of ability as an English player, and Ronaldo and Messi just owned the Ballon d'Or, didn't they? Absolutely owned it.
Of course they did, yeah. But I mean, if you look at our Champions League winning season, I mean, Ronaldo obviously took all the plaudits and won the Ballon d'Or that year as well. And you think maybe if himself and Messi was really coming to to fruition then as well, and scoring an insane amount of goals for someone his age at the time, maybe he would have been higher in those positions. I don't know who actually came in the top 3 that year. I'm sure it was Ronaldo, Messi, and possibly Iniesta. This is off the top of my head, might be incorrect.
What year was that?
2009. It would have been the following year, 2010, for the nominations, wouldn't it? Actually, because it's the year after.
Can't remember what year Neuer got 3rd. A bit later than that, wasn't it?
Possibly, yeah. But you think it's equally as impressive as England goal scoring record, is what I was going on to say, because you think when he was playing for England, when he first came into the fold, in 2004
Euros, yeah.
Wasn't it? We had probably some of the most talented players to have played for England.
One of the best international teams we've ever put together.
Exactly, and obviously we still didn't get anywhere. And then you look towards like the late 2000s, as time crept on, and these guys retired from international football. There were some shocking teams put out for England.
Do you know what? I only talked about this the other day. That 2010 World Cup when we lost to Germany.
Oh my God! Matthew Upson,
Matt Upson, and Glenn Johnson were in that defence.
Yeah, Upson scored.
Yeah,
unbelievable. But look at that. I mean, I suppose the way you could flip it, and a lot of people say this, is a lot of his goals were penalties. I think it was 20 plus of his England goals.
Oh, the record-breaking one was a penalty.
It was, yeah. Obviously, everyone remember that, but they're also scored against lesser teams. But then exactly. There's other strikers that have played not a similar amount of games, because obviously played one of our highest appearances for England in terms of outfield players, isn't he? I think there's only a few players who have played more. There's a lot of players who have played not far off of that, who have played up front or in attacking position, and they haven't scored anywhere near that amount of goals.
No, yeah.
So you've still got to put the ball in the net. It doesn't matter who you're playing. If you look at, obviously completely off subject, but like Barcelona lost 4-3 on the weekend, and they had an excellent team out. They didn't score enough goals to win, and they didn't defend well enough. You still have to score enough to win, and his win percentage for England was actually 77%, 78%,
Jesus.
something like that, off the top of my head. I was listening to something earlier about it, which is pretty damn impressive, really. But like you say, in major tournaments, I think his goals tally's like 7 or 8 total.
We got 4 at 2004, and I think he only got 1 or 2 in each of the afters because he scored in the.
I think there was a couple he went in a row without scoring.
2014, he definitely got one.
Yeah, I remember that.
Oh, yeah, so do I. We're going out.
We're going out.
Yeah, I mean, just quickly, why do you think his reputation was tarnished? Because he was never. Do you reckon it's because he's not a poster boy? I'm no oil painting.
Yeah,
but
no.
He was an ugly fucker, wasn't he?
Well, I am, but nah. Yeah, true. And I'm not quite. A lot of it, and I think a lot of ex-players, ex-England players, internationals, have come out and said this. Is there was a lot of hatred in terms of club hatred at that time, because Chelsea and Manchester United were huge rivals. You had likes of Terry and Lampard, and then you had the guys like Rooney and Scholes and Ferdinand, and they would sit at different tables, and like the Liverpool players in there as well, who were obviously chomping at the bit at that time. And there was a lot of that hatred, but I don't think you see that anymore. No. And I think Southgate, not necessarily just him, but as years have gone on, that's kind of weaned a little bit. But obviously, you think England fans, no one just supports an international team; you support a club team as well. And who are probably one of the most hated clubs in the Premier League, Manchester United. And they're always top of the news when anything goes wrong, when anything goes right. They're always in it. And the man who was involved with the club and scoring a hell of a lot of goals for the club at that time was Wayne Rooney. So there's not. I don't think there was an agenda against him, but you can't help it. Like Gerrard, I can't stand him, and I still can't now. But it's not like there's an agenda with a lot of journalists or media outlets in the country.
It's just tribal, isn't it?
It is a bit, but I think that's coming to an end. I don't think there's a huge amount of that anymore, and that's probably because we don't really have that many good English players. I think that's probably why.
No, that's true. Well, he plays what would be Thursday night, so tomorrow night for us, against USA, 120th cap. I don't agree with it, but whatever. Fair play.
A lot of other countries do it, but I don't know if they're just accepting it because they've always done it. Germany do it for a lot of players, they always have. And they tend to win things. I suppose that's probably the difference.
Yeah. Yeah, they've won a few things.
Yeah, a couple of bits. But I don't know. I think he was incredible. One of my favourite players ever. I think he was huge for me in my love of football. I'm totally on the fence. It makes you think, he's only going to come on for like 20 minutes, you say, probably. I think that's the plan from what it seems like.
Yeah.
But then people are saying, you're taking 20 minutes from like a young English player, excuse me, who's looking to break into the international squad. But then, will that make a huge difference? Will it really?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think Callum Wilson's going to play with him anyway, so who cares?
Yeah, looks like it.
Right. Let us know in the comments below. Like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you again next time.
Subscribe. See you later.